Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time out of your busy days to sit down and watch this video. I just wanted to make a quick writing tips part 2 to answer a few of the questions that I've been receiving lately around writing at home. Now, before I jump into this bulleted list here, I just wanted to say if writing at home with your student feels hard, that's because it is. Kindergarten writing is by far one of the most difficult subjects to teach. So try your very best. Hopefully these tips will help alleviate some of those difficulties. And if not, and you still have questions, feel like you need extra support, or you're just plain confused, give us a call. We're here to help. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the expectation around what kindergarten writing should look like. We are working towards building writers who can consistently spell words that include a beginning, a middle, and an end sound. So as you're writing with your student, if they stop and say, I don't know how to spell this word, it's too tricky, we encourage you to say to them, stretch the word down your arm and catch all the sounds that you hear. As they're stretching, ask them questions like this. What do you hear in the beginning? What do you hear in the middle? What do you hear in the end? Sometimes, when they catch a sound, they'll look to you for confirmation of whether or not that is the correct sound. And this is the tricky part, because sometimes the sound that they catch doesn't necessarily go with the correct next letter. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So say the word is candle. They would stretch candle. Chances are they'll catch the first sound just fine. They'll say a C or a K. That's great. Move on to the middle. You know, right here in the middle, they might catch an sound. And they might say E. And we as adults know that E is not the next sound in the word candle. However, instead of giving them the correct answer, we encourage you to ask them, is that the sound you hear? They'll nod. And encourage them to, okay, write it. Now, the spelling that we use in kindergarten that is not necessarily correct is called invented spelling or temporary spelling. The reason why we don't put too much emphasis on correct spelling is because spelling correctly takes a lot of brain power. We don't want kids to be spending their time and effort in spelling correct words. We want them to be spending their time and effort in producing elaborate ideas. A time for correct spelling will come later, but idea generation is the most important part of writing. So, again, encourage your kids to stretch out their word to catch the beginning, the middle, and the end sound. And when they look to you for confirmation, ask them, is that the sound that you hear? Okay, write it. Okay? Encourage them to move on so that they can complete their idea. If you would like to go back and look at spelling later, you absolutely can. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is tricky sounds. So sometimes your child will be stretching out a word and they'll catch the sounds just fine. But sometimes they'll get to a sound that they're not so sure about because that sound doesn't have a clear letter correspondence. Now, the sounds that I'm talking about are digraphs. Digraphs are sounds when two letters come together to make one sound. So those are sounds like sh and th and ch. Now, if your student has or is spelling a word with a digraph in it, and they hear it, but they can't necessarily spell it or know what letters go together to make it, go ahead and give to them. That's just fine. Oh, and then real quick, back to my point about the importance of idea generation versus correct spelling. I will attach an article about that for you to read more about at home. Anyway, the next point I wanted to discuss was something called high frequency words. Those are our snap words. So I've been getting this scenario a lot. So what if your child is spelling a word just fine? They've caught all the sounds, but they look at you and they say, oh, that's not right. I know that's not right. Well, the reason that they probably know that it's not correct is because the word that they're spelling is a high frequency word. These are words that appear often in our reading and writing. They're words like and, the, to, went, play. And they're words that don't always sound the way that they're spelled. And so the way that we learn these words is through memory work, right? So if your child is having this difficulty where they spell a word and they know it's not right because they've seen it in books and they just can't recall the way it's spelled, that's okay. Just add it to their snap word list. So that is, there's a word wall located inside your child's blue writing folder, or there's that purple snap word list that we've given you in one of the learning packets. Go ahead and pop that word onto one of those just so they can reach for it as a resource on their own in the future. Okay? And the last thing I wanted to talk about was students who finish their work really quickly. So some of the writing work in the packets is, it might be easier for some than others. For those students who finish that work really easy and write a sentence and say, I'm done, we want to encourage them to go back and add more. Adding more means adding another sentence or two. The things that your kids can add more about are the setting, the emotions, the actions, or they can even add some dialogue. So if they write that first sentence really quick and they say, I'm all done, encourage them to look at the picture again and ask them questions around these different features. Ask them, where is the person in the story? Or where are you? Have them write it. What is the person in the story feeling? Or how are you feeling? Have them write that. What was happening in the story? What were you doing? Were you running? Were you swinging? Were you playing? Write that. Or if somebody was talking, you might want to say, what were the words they were using? What were they saying? Go ahead and add that. That also goes along with speech bubbles. We've briefly taught them about speech bubbles, but that's a characteristic or a feature that you can add to your writing if you'd like. So again, if your child finishes writing really quickly, tell them, go back and add more. If your student is in my class, the gestures that I'm using are gestures that I use often with my own students to help remind them that writers are never done. Because one thing that we say often in kindergarten when it comes to writing is, are writers ever done? No, they go back and add more. And again, this is optional. This is for you if you feel like your student needs an extra push or more of a challenge. And but if the one sentence is just enough for you and works better for your learning schedule, then that's great too, okay? And that's all I have for you this time around. I hope these tips help address some of the questions that or wonderings that you've had around writing. We just want to say a huge thank you to you. We know that this is difficult and it's complicated work. So we really appreciate all the work that you're doing to support your child. And just remember that if it ever gets hard, we're here to help. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Good luck with writing. We'll see you next time.